Hey guys, Svenskeren here from Dignitas, and I'm here with a patch review from patch 13.18 presented by SIG. So first off, there's a new champion being released called Breyer, and she's already been out for a couple days now, and I think she was really underwhelming when she first got released. And I think Riot likes to immediately hotfix buff any new champion they make, just so they can get some more sales, I guess. I mean, it makes sense from a marketing standpoint. So I think she's gonna be really OP. All the new champions Riot makes is really OP, so definitely you're gonna be seeing her in solo queue a lot. I think that it kind of reminds me of when Kassadin got released, and his win rate in solo queue has just always been really bad, but it's just like new champions, people have to just like learn how to play before they become good, and I think this champion as well has a really high skill cap, so it's going to be the same as like Kassadin release. Next off we have Bard, and I think this champion is going to be contested for Worlds for sure. I think this buff is a solo queue buff and a pro play buff. I think he's going to be insane with this buff because his roaming is already good, but with this buff he's going to go next level roaming. And the changes from 5 to 10 seconds on the 7 to 20 seconds of the duration on the passive. So when you're walking around and you're picking up the chimes, it lasts 20 seconds now, which is just crazy. So it's never gonna fall off. You're gonna pick up one chime and you'll always be able to like snowball it into like picking up chimes in the top side of the map, even though you're support. So I just think this champion has a lot of agency, and supports usually don't have that agency, so this champ is going to be a champ that can just 1v9 for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be played at Worlds unless they obviously got it in the next patch. And the W as well got a little bit of a buff, which is not the biggest, but I mean, it's nice too. I think the passive is the bigger change. And Gwen got a buff. I think this champ is not really going to see play in pro play. I think it's more like a solo queue buff where people just want to play any champion in the jungle. And I think Riot is trying to make a lot of more champions just viable in like every role. And the same here, like her passive deals a little bit more damage to monsters, but I don't think this is really it's not gonna make her play it in professional play because she's already like just too hard to play. Like she needs too much resources to carry the game, and you just don't get that in the jungle. So I don't expect this champ to be played in professional play. Rell is getting a buff. I think this buff is good for professional play and for solo queue because Rell is just a champ that is really snowbally, and her ult having a lower cooldown just means she can go for more all-ins and more skirmishes where you don't have to wait for your ult to be up. Obviously you still have to wait, but 15 seconds is a lot of time where you can just all in again, and I can see this champ being played at Worlds as well in certain matchups of course, but this champ is just always like really strong, and if you're good on a rally you can really carry, so I can see it being played for sure. And next up we have Javan being nerfed. I think Riot took it to the next level on the last patches with buffing Goldringer and Shojin, and Javan just became a monster, and I mean, they're just nerfing it here. This is professional play and solo queue. He's just too insane right now. So yeah, it makes sense. They're nerfing the percent health on the passive, which means that now you kind of have to build damage if you want to do anything on Javan, because before like you can just build a lot of health and you still deal a lot of damage. So this change is just making it so you have to basically build some kind of damage items if you want to deal damage, which I mean, I think it's healthy for the game. Shouldn't be able to one-shot people just by building a of health. Next thing we have Kassadin. I think this buff is not that big. I don't see it being played professionally. I think solo queue, sure, this is a solo queue buff because in solo queue you can get away with like playing Kassadin and just being ultra greedy and try to carry the game by yourself. Like in pro play, people are they're gonna punish your whole team if you're just sitting and farming on the turret the whole game. So yeah, this change is not gonna be enough, I feel like, for teams to pick it up. Maybe if Rise or some kind of immobile mid lane champions become really meta at Worlds, you can pick this up, like SIG mid or something. Like if people start blind picking stuff like that, then sure, maybe Kassadin can become good, but I think teams at the highest level is just too good at punishing Kassadin that he's just never really going to be viable. Same with Kane. Kane is getting a nerf. I mean, Kane, this nerf is just for solo queue only. People are not playing in pro play as well. Just the same as Kassadin, where people are just too good at punishing the weak early game, and Kane has always just had this problem where you have to fight to get your form, and usually that means you have to die 3 or 4 times before you get your form, but you can get away with doing that in solo queue because the enemy team is not going to close out the game, but in pro play it's like you give over 2 kills and the game is already over, and then the game is over before you get your form. So I just don't see this change really mattering too much. I mean, solo queue, he's really OP, so it's a good change for solo queue for sure. They're just nerfing his ult, deals less damage, and the passive has less healing, so it's just a nerf to red Kane, which is the most obnoxious Kane for sure. Canon is getting a buff. I think this buff is going to be good for pro play and for solo queue, of course. Canon is already being played in pro play, but I think with this buff it's going to take it to the next level, and he's probably going to be blind pick at Worlds like non-stop. I could see it, which is also a good thing they buffed Rell, I guess, because Rell is typically a Canon counter matchup, so I can see this matchup being a Worlds matchup. The E is getting 20 less energy at every level, and the ult has 40 seconds less at level 16. So yeah, I mean, his early game is just going to be even easier to pilot, and also his late game is just going to be crazy with the, you never have to wait for your ulti to be up. So this just means you don't have to build any CDR, you can go full damage, which, I mean, people are already building that. So I think this change is just going to be that you can get 2 Canon ults, so you can go from one team fight and die and then go to the next team fight, and Canon's ult is going to be up again, which before would be like you take 1 skirmish and then you can't contest the objective or something because Canon's ult is just too long cooldown, you won't have it up, and Canon without his ult is just useless. So I think this is a pretty strong change for sure. 40 seconds is a lot. And moving on, we have Rell getting a nerf. I think this nerf is for pro play, basically only pro play, because she's not really the strongest in solo queue, and I don't think people really care about Rell in solo queue. And in pro play, she's just been like the #1 support and even #1 jungler ever since they reworked her, like the mini rework they did. And they're just taking away some speed on the E, which is the most overtuned ability in the game, I think. Like when they remade Rell to have the move speed on the E, it just means that she can always catch up, and as a melee support that has to go for engages, like having move speed on an ability is just crazy. Like you can't run away from her, so she doesn't even have to have flash to catch you. I mean, even with flash she's crazy, but like she can just gap close so hard. And I think this is a good change where they're just nerfing it a little bit. They've already nerfed her like 4 times now or something, so hopefully she won't be the best support at Worlds. Moving on, we have Senna. She is getting a buff, I believe, yeah. Her passive no longer reduces critical strike damage by 8.5%, and her W gets a soul, I believe, if you hit your W on somebody. I don't think this change is really gonna matter too much for pro play. I think this is more like solo queue. I can see it. I don't think Senna is that strong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe with this change that people can just build crit Senna and just play AD carry Senna, and it'll be really strong. But I don't think you can build crit as a support Senna. Like you don't get enough gold to really make use of critical strike. Like you'll have 1 item, and that's just not enough for crit to matter. So maybe if people find some good build on AD carry Senna, that this could matter for Worlds. I doubt it though. And next we have Fresh. He's getting a pretty big buff, I think. And obviously this is gonna matter a lot for pro play, because Fresh is just a champion that has a high skill cap, and usually at the highest level, people can play a champ really well. So yeah, he's just getting 0.5 more shield strength on his W per soul he picks up, so I don't think it's gonna matter like too much, but people usually like to just pick up a champion after they get buffed, and especially a champ like Fresh is like every single champion, like every single pro player wants to play this champion because he looks so cool and he's really fun to play, so they just have a lot of games on this champ, and yeah, he's getting a buff, so that means more supporters is going to pick him up and try to play the pairings, like AD carry pairings with it. And next we have Tristana. He's getting a massive nerf because on the last patch Riot increased his range, which was crazy. They did that for some reason. And yeah, I mean, to make do with the extra range he has, they had to reduce his damage and his health growth. So this just means that his early game all-ins is going to be a lot weaker, because already before, when they added the range, they already removed 4 AD, I think, 4 base AD, and now they're removing another 2. So that just means his crits is like a lot less, obviously, because a crit is twice as much base AD. So early game, he's not going to be able to really all-in as hard as he used to be, and I think now you're just gonna have to play him as like a scaling champ, which, I mean, unless you can get really lucky with the crits, I guess you can still all in, but not really sure. I'm gonna have to see how this plays out, this change. But I think Tristana is just kind of in a crazy spot right now with this extra range, and it just feels really unfair to play against. So I'm happy they're kind of gutting him, and just hopefully people stop playing it. Saya is getting a pretty big nerf, I think. I think this nerf is just for pro play because she's just pick up ban basically. Same with Kaiser. These champs are just always good in every single spot. So I think Riot is trying to change the meta for Worlds. Like, they're gonna make it some other AD carries come up with Saya being nerfed. And they're nerfing the health by 30 and the health growth goes up by 5. So just her level 1 to 6 is a lot weaker. Like, you'll have 30 less health, and obviously it doesn't sound like too much, 30 less health, but it could be just what decides if she wins a lane or not. Like, she can tank one more auto or not. And her E is also getting a 2-second nerf, so this just means other bot lanes can have more timings to all in her, where she won't be able to punish with the Blade Caller. So I think it's a good nerf. Saya has just been too strong for basically the whole summer split, and yeah, I mean, it's just kind of boring to always have the same champs. So hopefully this means that there'll be some more diversity in bot lane. And moving on, we have the items. And there's a few items that's gotten changed in this patch. I think this is probably the biggest, is the Crown of the Shadow Queen is getting kind of a rework. It's getting 15 more AP, and the Safeguard, the thing that you would buy it for before, is getting changed. So before it was basically just an item you'd build against assassins, because you can make one ability just do no damage. But now they're changing it to you can have it on for longer. So I'm not really sure what this, like, who is going to be able to use this. I feel like AP Bruisers would make good use of this. I don't see like who, but maybe like a tank, like a AP Gragas or something who's going in. Maybe it can be useful for those, but yeah. I think it's a pretty big change because now with this change, I think that you can just build Crown like on a lot more situations. You don't have to really think about, oh, do they have any poke? Then I can't build Crown before, because it would just get proc the shield. So I feel like now it's the shield lasting a bit longer, makes it easier to use this item and not as punishing to just build it in the wrong spots. Yeah, I think they just made it easier. And next change is Spirit Shojin is getting -5 AD. I think this is a good change because they obviously made the item too strong last patch, and I think Riot is doing a good job of noticing what is like problems before Worlds, and obviously this is a kind of a small patch just in making sure that Worlds is not going to have really OP stuff, and they don't want to make sure that this item is being built on every single champion, every single game at Worlds, I think. And Static Shift is getting nerfed. I think this is also a good change. So they're giving it 5 AD and removing the one shot of waves, basically. I think this is a pro play nerf. I think in pro play people really abuse this item a lot, where you'll just pick any non-wave clear champion and then you can just all of a sudden wave clear forever, and people can't punish because the waves just disappear. You can never hit a turret because the wave is gone, and you don't really have time to rotate because there's no wave for the enemy to catch. So I think this removing the wave clear on it is good. I don't know how much this is gonna matter. I think it means that you just had to hit a wave twice now, whereas before you just had to hit it once. So, I mean, I think it's a good change. Next we have Stormrazor being buffed. Yeah, I mean, Storm Razor being buffed, I think, is also a good thing. It just means that some more burst AD carries might be able to make a return. Like, you can build Lucian with this item. I think it's strong with Rapid Fire Cannon, so it just means that the meta is going away from like the Saya and Kaiser only, which hopefully means that. And I don't see who else really would build Storm Razor unless it's like stronger than the other items. Maybe this change is big, 5 AD. I don't think it's like that big, but surely some champs can use it. And I think that's it for the items. Next we have some champion ability icon updates. So let's see what champion is affected here. Javan, Lee Sin, Olaf. Yeah, there's some jungle champs here. I mean, Graves as well. I think some people are making up some stupid arguments about why they shouldn't do this, but I think it's good for the game to just refresh the icons and just make it look more modern, because they want this game to like keep being played and not look really old. So obviously a lot of people are feeling nostalgic about the Lee Sin change. Like, I've also been playing him since he came out, and you're just so used to seeing that one icon and know what it means that when you see something else, you just gotta get used to it. And yeah, I mean, I think this change is good. The icons don't look bad. I think people are just making up stuff. All right, and lastly, we got some skins. So they're releasing the Street Demons skin line, which I think was voted on like the community poll a while back. I didn't really follow it too closely, but one of my friends mentioned that, so that's just why I know that. There's some pretty nice skins. I haven't seen how they look like in-game, but definitely my favorite is going to be the Talia one. I think Talia is lacking some cool skins, and this one looks crazy in-game, so I'll definitely be using this one, just that you have to use it. You have to buy it with like some purple essence, which I'm not really sure how you get, but I have it, so I can use the skin. Lucky me. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you for watching. This was the patch review with Svenskeren, and thank you to SIG for making this happen. Peace.